So, if you've listened to any French Baroque music, even superficially, you've probably noticed that ornamentation is a huge part of their musical language at that time. And when I say French Baroque, I'm talking about like the late 1600s through the mid 1700s. That means that composers like Delalande, Charpentier, Rameau, Campra, de Grigny, and Couperins, most importantly, in my opinion, Louis and Francois Couperins, and also Louis Marchand, the organ composer. Well, like I say, all these composers represent a style of one of the most glittering times in French history, and it is true that the ornamentation is much more definitive and integral to the music than it is in Italian music or German music or English music. Although English music was very eager to copy a lot of French ornamentation. So if you're like me at all, when you heard this stuff, especially coming to it from a background of Bach, you'll be confused by it, and you might even be scornful. I was a little bit dismissive. I thought, okay, so we have all this frilly stuff, but where's the content? Where's the fiery harmonic invention and the dense counterpoint, like Bach? And this viewpoint comes from a German-centric education in music, which is hard to avoid nowadays, and nor should it be avoided because German music is incredible. However, it also doesn't serve to you're not going to penetrate into the glories of French music with this kind of mindset. You won't get very far. You'll be put off by the smell of the lace cuffs and the orangerie and the frills, and you'll think frilly. So in the hands of a novice, ornamentation is like that. It's distracting puff that cloaks a lack of invention and a lack of artistic voice. And that happens a lot because, it's a style, it's a very formulaic style that is not that virtuosic technically, mostly. It's more about simple melody and expression. And this comes from a generation of composers called the air de coeur composers, the airs of the heart. And it really stripped down the polyphonic side of composition and brought to the forefront the melodic side. So this opened the gates for a lot of composers who weren't that technically skilled to make music that basically sounded all right. However, in the hands of a master composer like Couperin, ornamentation is absolutely integral to what the piece expresses. And this was a big revelation when I was listening to Couperin, and people like de Grigny and Delalande and Rameau, and realized that it's far from distracting and undignified fluff. It's actually extremely special about French music, ornamentation, and it reflects preoccupations that you can hear in Debussy and Messiaen, and yes, Boulez and Tristan Moray and Gerard Grisey and Dutilleux, and many, many French composers. And that's a love of the nature and texture of sound in itself, by itself. The subtlety of sound. So I want to play for you a small segment that demonstrates how ornamentation can add shading and subtlety to what would otherwise be basic harmony. And hopefully this encourages you to think creatively about ornamentation in your own composition and playing, and serves to add something to the experience of newcomers to French Baroque music. So here we go. I'm going to play it now unornamented. So we're in G major. Right? I'm just going to change the organ here. So this is it's a very standard progression, basically a circle of fifths. The top two voices are in a kind of easy sort of canonic motion, I should say. And it's a way of getting to the dominant of G. So here you go. We'll get you in G one more time. So here we go. So there it is, unornamented. Fairly plain. You can hear very clearly what's happening. Okay, here it is ornamented. So right off the bat, you should be able to hear the difference that is encapsulated in the second one, and how much more interesting it is, at least to me, as music. You get sounds like this, and this is typical of like French organ music, and you'll hear a lot of stuff, and way cooler and way better than that if you start listening to that stuff. So I encourage you to do it. Some of the composers I mentioned I will list here at the bottom of the video, and hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you next time.